It's night, one of those nights that seem made especially for rest. The rain begins to fall slowly, first in isolated drops hitting the metal roof of the station, then in a constant murmur, a soft, repeated sound that seems to say, "You can relax now." The train waits, still, silent. Its yellow lights spill out of the windows, forming golden rectangles on the wet asphalt of the platform, trembling reflections that move to the rhythm of the falling drops. You climb aboard. The dark wooden steps creak slightly under your feet, an old, familiar sound, like that of a house that has known you for a long time. The interior of the carriage is small and cozy, seats upholstered in wine-colored velvet, a brass lamp fixed to the wall, casting a warm, amber light over everything. The smell is of old wood, leather, and something vaguely reminiscent of lavender. You find your place near the window. You rest your head on the cold edge of the glass and look out. The platform is emptying. An employee in a wet coat closes a door in the distance. Someone waves out the window to someone who is no longer visible. And then the train departs, without haste, as if it knew you had no urgent appointments tonight. The rhythm of the tracks begins. Clack, 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 clack. A regular, tranquil pulse, like the beating of a resting heart. It's impossible not to synchronize your breathing with this sound. Inhale, exhale, and the train moves on. The rain trickles down the window in tortuous rivulets, each drop tracing its own path on the glass before disappearing. You watch a drop descend slowly, then meet another, and the two move together, faster now, and vanish into the lower corner of the glass. Outside, the dark fields pass silently. Night is everywhere, in the barely visible trees, in the lampposts that flicker for an instant and disappear, in the empty roads that cross the tracks and are lost in the darkness. But then, a small light. On the distant horizon, a single illuminated window of a secluded house. Someone is awake inside, perhaps making tea, perhaps reading, perhaps just sitting, listening to the rain. And then the house disappears. The train continues. You continue. The rain continues. And there is something profoundly reassuring in knowing that the world goes on at its own pace without your intervention, that you can simply be here, on this velvet bench, in this suspended moment. The train slows down. A small town appears among the trees. Wet cobblestone streets reflect the honey-colored streetlights. A central square with an old bandstand, empty now, but you can imagine the music that once played there on summer nights. The corner bakery has its interior light on, and a thin smoke rises from the chimney. The baker who starts before dawn, someone whose job is to make other people's days begin with the smell of fresh bread. An orange cat crosses the street slowly, unconcerned by the rain. A single person waits on the station platform, umbrella, small suitcase beside them, looking at their watch with a peaceful expression. Someone who is also going somewhere quiet tonight. The train stops for a few moments, then it continues. The small town recedes and returns to darkness, to its wet streets, to its inhabitants sleeping under heavy blankets, with windows fogged by the heat inside. With the swaying of the train, memories arrive. Not the urgent ones, not the ones that need attention or an answer. The others, the small ones. That Sunday afternoon when the rain fell outside and you lay on the sofa reading a book you never finished. The smell of coffee coming from the kitchen. The voice of someone you loved talking about something simple. The weather, weekend plans. Nothing important and everything important at the same time. The feeling of arriving home after a long trip. Putting the suitcases on the floor. Taking off your shoes, sitting in the first available chair, and simply breathing. That childhood window you looked out when it rained, the little drops running down the glass, and you choosing one to cheer on like in a private, silent race. Memories don't ask for anything. They just appear, float for a moment, and go again, soft as smoke. And you realize that you keep inside you a huge archive of beautiful moments that had been forgotten, not lost, just kept, waiting for a night like this, on a train like this, to come to the surface. The train begins to climb. Slowly, the landscape changes. The trees grow taller. The fields give way to slopes covered in dark conifers. The rain still falls, but now it sometimes mixes with something whiter, lighter, snow. The first flakes appear on the window, shy, almost embarrassed, as if they weren't sure if it was their time yet. But the train climbs higher, and they become more confident. In a short time, the snow lightly covers the treetops, the stones by the roadside, the roofs of the cabins that appear here and there on the slopes. The world becomes quieter. There is something about the snow that muffles all sounds, as if the world put cotton in its own ears to sleep better. The mountains in the distance are just dark shadows against the indigo sky, immense, motionless, indifferent to the passing train. They existed long before you and will exist long after you. And there is something profoundly comforting about that, the silent permanence of the mountains. You rest your hand on the cold window. The glass is covered with crystals of icy water on the outside, and inside, the gentle warmth of the heated carriage. That thin boundary between cold and hot, between outside and inside, that invisible line you trace with your fingertip on the fogged glass, is where you are now, safe, on the exact edge between the world and the dream. The train skirts a high point, and down below, in the dark valley, a lake. Perfect, still. A black mirror reflecting the little light that comes from the sky. The rain doesn't reach it here, or perhaps it simply absorbs each drop without leaving a trace. Its surface is smooth, like a dream you can barely remember, present but without a defined form. Around the lake, some trees with bare branches bend slightly over the water, as if they too wanted to see their own reflection. On a distant bank, a light, a house perhaps, or a forgotten lantern. Its reflection in the lake is a golden line that trembles when the wind passes. You keep looking until the train rounds the bend, and the lake disappears. But the image remains, the golden light trembling in the dark water, the absolute stillness of a place that no one else was seeing at that exact moment, only you from the train window for just a few seconds. And that was enough. There's a special beauty in things that only exist for a moment. Hours passed. You don't know how many. The train moved through valleys, past small nameless stations, crossed stone bridges over dark rivers. And now, on the northern horizon, something happens. A color you didn't expect, a soft green, almost imperceptible at first, as if the darkness itself were exhaling light. Then a lilac,
Then a slow undulation, like silk curtains being moved by a gentle wind in the sky. The aurora borealis. You don't know if you're dreaming, but you are very quiet, very awake inside, and very, very at peace. The lights dance without haste, greens, violets, sometimes a soft pink at the edge. They don't ask for attention, they simply exist up there in that immense sky as a reminder that the universe is full of beauties that happen even when no one is looking. But you are, and that is enough. The train stops again. A small stone station with windows lit by warm yellow light. Outside the platform, a café is still open, unlikely at this hour, but real. Through the train window, you see the interior. Dark wood tables, chairs with leather seats, a stone fireplace in the corner with wood crackling in low orange flames. The embers pulse slowly, breathing. A man with a white beard sits alone, reading, a steaming cup on the table, an oil lamp beside the book, casting a light that flickers slightly each time someone passes by. You don't go in, you just observe from the train window this perfect and quiet scene. A man reading, a fireplace, a cup of tea, the snow outside. And you think, there are places in the world where time still moves slowly, where no one is in a hurry, where a rainy night is an invitation, not an inconvenience. The train departs. The café disappears. But the warmth of that fireplace, you still feel it inside, in your chest. The forest begins beyond the mountains. Tall pine trees covered in light snow, branches touching above the tracks, forming a kind of dark, sheltered corridor. The train passes through this vegetable cathedral with an involuntary reverence, slower, quieter. The snow falls between the trees in large, slow flakes, each in its own time, each with its own path. Sometimes the moon appears for an instant between the branches, full, white, distant, and illuminates a small patch of snow with a soft bluish light, and then disappears again behind the treetops. In the lower branches, a crow sleeps, motionless, head tucked into its wings, indifferent to the passing train, sleeping the sleep of those who have no hurry to arrive anywhere. You think how lucky this is, to know how to sleep like this, without resistance, without persistent thoughts, just sleep, complete, deep, natural. And as you think about it, your own eyes begin to feel heavy. The train continues. It always continues. You no longer know where you are. It doesn't matter. There was no appointment waiting, no urgent place to arrive. The journey itself was the destination. The window is completely fogged up now. You trace a line with your finger just to see the damp darkness outside, and then let your arm fall back into your lap. The warmth of the carriage is an embrace. The rhythm of the tracks is a lullaby. Clack, 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 clack. The rain is lighter now, or perhaps you're listening less attentively. The drops on the window seem slower. The world outside seems softer, less defined, like a wet watercolor where the colors blend into one another. You think of all the people who have traveled on trains like this throughout the centuries, everyone who looked out the window on a rainy night and felt the same thing, that gentle weight on their shoulders, that stillness that comes slowly, that feeling that the world is all right and you can rest. You think, and the thoughts become slower, softer, less clear. Like the world outside, like the rain, like the snow on the trees, like the light of the lake, like the dawn that still pulses far away, green and violet, in a sky that doesn't need your attention to exist. You are safe. You are warm. You are in motion, but also completely at peace. The train continues. The night continues. And you can rest now.